This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, ho, there's Jeff Cutter and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, July 17th, 1994, the World Cup ends with one of the most unbelievable finishes to a World Cup ever. But the 94 World Cup was kind of controversial. There were some controversies within the tournament, but one major one outside of it was the Americans getting the World Cup in the first place. In 1988, FIFA decided to pick the U.S. as the host country, despite the fact that soccer had a lack of popularity, and the North American Soccer League was 4 years. It was 4 years after that league folded, but it's the most financially successful World Cup history. And it had an average attendance of over 68,000 per game, which is still a record. The weird thing is that mark's still there, even though the World Cup has 32 teams. Well, now in 2022, and now it's going to be 48 in 2026. So yeah, it was amazing and all of that. The 94 World Cup also was big because it dealt with 3 points for a win instead of 2, so you had more incentive to win. And the back pass rule was in effect, meaning that goalies could not receive a back pass. If a defender back passed to the goalie, he had to play it off. He had to kick it. He cannot pick it up and all that. If he does, then he gets a yellow card and an indirect free kick. It was done to encourage a more attacking style of soccer because of the defensive tactics and low-scoring matches of the 1990 World Cup. U.S., Brazil, and Morocco were fighting it out for the World Cup, with the Americans getting more than 50%. It was amazing and all that. Brazil was not too happy about it. And now there was Morocco. Poor Morocco. They can't get a title. Can't get a World Cup. Anyway, one condition FIFA said for the Americans was that they needed a professional soccer league. Major League Soccer started operating, but 2 years after this World Cup. So yeah, it was kind of weird, all that. However, FIFA's decision also was because of the success of the '84 Summer Olympics, because the soccer tournament drew over 1 million people throughout the United States. So anyway, FIFA actually proposed that they needed larger goals, like larger nets, and breaks after every quarter instead of just at halftime to appease U.S. TV advertisers, but it failed miserably. However, the advertisers would actually put their advertisements on the score bug, so that changed everything. So anyway, the United States brought in 9 cities to host World Cup games. Pasadena at the Rose Bowl, Stanford Stadium by San Francisco, Pontiac Silverdome by Detroit, East Rutherford at Giant Stadium, Dallas at the Cotton Bowl Stadium, Chicago at Soldier Field, Orlando at the Citrus Bowl, Foxborough at Old Foxborough Stadium, and Washington at RFK Stadium. So anyway, this was a huge one. There was scandal, and the qualification for the '94 World Cup was a big mess. If you want to know more, then look for my August 17th Sports Catastrophe from last year, where I talk about the World Cup qualification in all 6 continents. But just a rundown of countries. In Africa, Zambia lost almost all its entire national team after playing a qualifying round due to a plane crash, and they still had a chance to qualify for the World Cup with the new players, but lost to Morocco. In Asia, Japan had a golden chance to do it, but they faltered in the mini tournament, giving Saudi Arabia a trip to the World Cup. Japan called it the agony of Doha in Qatar, where the mini tournament was. Japan has ended up qualifying for every World Cup since '94. So that was good. Oceania, well, Australia won the Oceania group and would have to face one of the runners-up in North America, which ended up being Canada, after Mexico won the qualifying tournament. The Americans automatically qualified as hosts. Canada then lost a penalty shootout to Australia. That did not mean that that was a World Cup spot, as Australia would have to face the winner of that one had to face one of the South American teams. And unfortunately, Argentina lost to Colombia, and Argentina was put into that two-leg playoff against Australia. Thankfully, though, Diego Maradona came back onto the roster, and now the Argentina qualified for the World Cup that way. But more on that later. Anyhow, in Europe, it was a mess. The last day of the European campaign was a mess. Denmark, the defending Euro champs, lost to Spain, meaning that the Republic of Ireland would get into the World Cup. England could not get through. They lost their qualifying group to Norway. Are you nuts? And what's even worse, France had a chance in the final two qualifying games, only needing roughly 1 point to qualify. They lost to Israel. In the final seconds of their first match, but they still needed a tie against Bulgaria, which they stupidly didn't get. So anyway. So yeah, lots of things happening and all that. So let's go to the the opening ceremony in Chicago was terrible. John Cicada actually got injured in a trapdoor, and Diana Ross was supposed to kick a soccer ball into the goal to celebrate it. It was a pre-orchestrated stunt, but she kicked too much. Group A saw the Americans, the host Americans. Usually Group A is where the hosts play. The U.S. would play Colombia, Switzerland, and Romania. Americans were not expected to do well, and they were thinking the U.S. would be the first host country to not make the knockout stages, or any version of the knockout stages. Unfortunately, though, the Americans would win, lose, and tie one game. They tied Switzerland. They beat Colombia, which was a massive shocker, and then they fell to the Romanians, which was like, how the heck do you lose Romania? Romania won the group at 6 points. Switzerland took second with 4 points. And the Americans would have to wait for goal differential to see if they could qualify for the knockout stages. Because there were 6 groups of 4. The top 2 in each group, well there would be 12, and then there'd be 4 extra teams to qualify on your third placing. Colombia did win one game, but it was too little too late. Colombia was supposed to be one of the heavy favorites. Unfortunately, Andres Escobar scored that famous own goal against the Americans. That was not the winning goal. That was the first American goal. The Americans scored one more time. But anyway, Escobar would lose his life 12 days later. And all that. Group B saw Brazil and Sweden qualify, with Russia crushing Cameroon. Oleg Zelenko put up 5 goals. But that wasn't the story of the game between Russia and Cameroon. It was Cameroon's Roger Milla, at 42 years old, scoring a goal. So Zelenko scored 5 goals. Amazing. Brazil with 7 points, Sweden with 5. In Group C, Germany and Spain qualified from that group, with Korea and Bolivia just not doing as well. Group D saw Nigeria and Bulgaria qualified with 6 points. Automatically qualified. Argentina also had 6 points. Greece had none. Funny thing is that Nigeria, Bulgaria, and Argentina, well, there were no ties. Greece lost all 3 games by a combined score of 10-0. But that was not the major storyline in that group. The major storyline was after the second game, Diego Maradona was selected for a random drug test. Unfortunately, though, he tested positive for ephedrine, which was a weight loss drug. That kind of explains why Maradona was back in fitness for the 94 World Cup. All that. Unfortunately, Argentina got crushed by Bulgaria 2-0. And Argentina would have to wait and see if their third place finish was good enough to make it to the knockout stages. Group E saw Mexico, Ireland, Italy, and Norway all score 4 points. Can you believe it? This must be the first time in history, and the only time in history, that all 4 teams had the same amount of points. It was just shocking and all that. It was like, how the heck happened? It's the only group in World Cup history, all 4 teams finished with the same points and same goal differential. So it was like, well, every team won, lost, and tied. So the problem was, what can you do? So after the wins and goal differential rule couldn't be tied, couldn't break it, it went to goals scored. With Mexico scoring 3 goals in the group, Ireland scored twice, Italy scored twice, and Norway only scored once. So Mexico won the group. Ireland, after beating Italy in the first game of the group, shockingly, June 18th, 1994, ended up getting second place by virtue of their win. So Italy and Norway. But because Italy scored more goals than Norway, they got the 3rd place spot and would have to wait and see if that was good enough. I mean, Italy just had a terrible tournament. Norway only scored 1 goal in the tournament, and that was their downfall. Group F. Holland, Saudi Arabia, and Belgium all were 2-1, where Morocco went El Sipil. They did score 2 goals, but yeah, they were 0-3. Holland qualified. Holland won the group because of, with Holland beating Saudi Arabia, they actually won. So the Dutch were number 1. Saudi Arabia were automatically in as the 2nd team, and Belgium's 2-1 mark would have to be the 3rd. In 3rd place, would have to see what happens. But thankfully, because of the Argentina, Belgium, US, and Italy all qualified for the tournament with the fact that they were the best 3rd place teams. Russia and Korea didn't have enough points. So yeah. So the problem with that is, well, that was the last tournament until the 2016 Euros, that 3rd place teams, that there would be the knockout stages of any tournament would need like a 3rd place qualification. Anyhow, the round of 16 was big. Belgium was fighting Germany. Germany won 3-2. Spain crushed Switzerland 3-0. Sweden took down Saudi Arabia 3-1. Romania shocked Argentina, who were basically dealing with no Maradona. Holland took down Ireland. Brazil beat the Americans only 1-0, which was shocking to me because it was like, how the hell did they only win 1-0? It just didn't make sense. Italy beat Nigeria 2-1 in extra time, thanks to Roberto Baggio, who kind of saved the day. Nigeria was up 1-0, and it looked like Nigeria was going to send Italy out of the tournament. But Baggio came out of freaking nowhere and scored 2 goals, including one in extra time. Mexico and Bulgaria had to go to penalties. Mexico missed all but 1 penalty. Bulgaria put up 3 penalties, and Bulgaria, who had to win on the final day of the 94 qualifying campaign, won a trip to the quarterfinals. In the quarterfinals, Italy would beat Spain. Brazil actually had troubles with Holland, as Holland would not go away quietly. Brazil only won 3-2. Bulgaria shocked Germany 2-1 on a goal by Jordan Lechkov. And Germany, the defending champs, were out. The 4th quarterfinals saw Romania and Sweden go to penalties, tied at 2. It took an extra round of penalties, but Sweden made all their penalties minus the first one, but Romania missed. Balajic missed his penalty, and Romania were out of the tournament. That led to the semifinals, which saw Italy beat Bulgaria 2-1, pair of goals by Baggio being the hero, and Brazil beating Sweden 1-0. So Sweden held on tight. Sweden did win 3rd place, 4-0. And in the final, Brazil and Italy faced each other. Of course, this was happening on July 17th. No goals. Stupidly, they had nothing, so they had to go to penalties. Italy missed with Franco Baresi, the star defender for Italy, missed his shot. However, Brazil missed theirs with Marcio Santos. Italy scored next with Albertini scoring. Brazil countered Romario, who scored. Avani scored for Italy. Franco tied it up. And then it was down to Massaro, who missed. Dunga made it 3-2 on penalty. So it was down to Roberto Baggio, the man who saved Italy from being eliminated in the group stage and to Nigeria in the round of 16. But Baggio sailed his shot way up high. If it was in the NFL, it would be a good field goal, but nope, he missed. Brazil won the World Cup over Italy, and it was huge for Brazil and all that. Becoming the first country to win 3 World Cups, I believe. Or was it 4? I think it was 4. Was it? Yeah, I think it was 4, right? Yeah. 58, 62, 70. Now 94. They finally did it. Italy would have to suffer through a lot of problems. And the simple fact is that someone's trying to tell me that I'm a stupid buddy boy. But the fact of the matter is, Italy suffered. Well, they got to the 2002 World Cup, lost controversially to Korea in the round of 16, 98. Forgot who took them out in 98. But they didn't have a good tournament then. But they won in 2006, so no big deal. But Baggio was berated in Italy. And a lot of people said that Baggio, yeah, he missed the big penalty and all that. But the problem was they took it. They pointed at Baggio because he was a Buddhist, not a Roman Catholic like Italy was. And they just basically said it was because of religious reasons. And Baggio did say that his Buddhist master said he would be faced with a lot of issues in the World Cup. Well, he was right. But that's the way it goes. The 94 World Cup was very financially successful. I mean, it's American dollar. And now in 2026, America will host the World Cup with Canada and Mexico's help. But the Americans will get 50 matches, whereas the other 2 countries will only get like 10. So that's not good. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.